Welcome to another issue of Sirf News' debate show Wait for 8 in collaboration with Satyanveshi Bharat. Ladies and gentlemen, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary Mark T. Esper arrived in India today for the third edition of 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue. These talks are aimed at strengthening strategic ties in the face of growing Chinese influence across the region. Pompeo and Esper will hold top-level 2+2 talks with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Defense Minister Rajnath Singh tomorrow, and then meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval too. The visit coincides with India's engagement in a bitter border standoff with China, ladies and gentlemen. Pompeo had indicated earlier that the dialogue is expected to focus on the threats from our northern neighbor. Pompeo is due to travel also to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, two Indian Ocean countries where China has financed and built various infrastructure to the alarm of India and the United States. In fact, China took over the control of Hambantota port completely in 2018 after Sri Lanka failed to repay the lender at the high rate of interest demanded. The questions we are asking, ladies and gentlemen, is how effective India's collaboration with the US is going to be against the aggression of China. We hear of an effort to bring Japan into a tripartite agreement too. But we have seen India through the past 73 years of independence that it is wary of military alliances. The US in particular may not go all out in helping us against China if we do not get into a military alliance with them. Will India make the paradigm shift in the policy of non-aggression? To discuss the issue, we have with us Wing Commander Praful Bakshi. We have Mantosh Sharma from the US. We are joined by Sablok Tantra's Rachit Kaushik. We have political commentator Gautam Mukherjee. Everyone, welcome to the show. Gautam, we start with you. How do you analyze the situation? Is there a remote possibility or a more clearer possibility of US, Japan, India axis against China?
There is an inevitability about this, Surajit. India has, been playing ducks and drakes with non-alignment and multilateralism. But today you have a megalomaniac at your gate, and there is no choice. We do not have the resources by ourselves to take care of this, particularly because militarily I'm speaking, particularly because for many years under the UPA, the whole business of equipping the armed forces and looking at our strategic requirements has been neglected. So as a consequence, today we are buying frantically. We're trying to catch up. The Chinese, on the other hand, have been building it up, very similar to the Germans in the First World War, when they then thought, okay, now we're invincible, we lick the world, and they landed up with the Versailles Treaty. In the Second World War, they thought they'd take everybody on, the Russians, the British, the Americans. Again, they had their, heads handed to them for the sake of politeness. Now, we are having to, by force, just as in 1991, we were forced to liberalize. We were bankrupt. We were sending our gold to Switzerland to get the next tranche of any kind of loan. And today, if we do not join the Quad and turn it into a military arrangement with a base in the Andamans, that's the maritime side. Now on the northern borders with the Chinese, we will need a lot of equipment. A lot of it will have to come to us. We'll have to pay later, that sort of thing. We need the Americans. We need the NATO. We need the Japanese, Australians, There's no getting out of it.
Right. Praful Bakshi, Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, if you can come on this thing, what we see, yes, please unmute yourself. Yeah, what we see India, the form in which we have seen India, the policy, the external or the defense policy of India does not go along with the idea of military alliances. हम लोग यूएन के साथ तो पीस कीपिंग फोर्सेस में अपनी सेना भेजते हैं, अपने सैनिकों को भेजते हैं, लेकिन जब तक हम जिस प्रकार के विश्व युद्ध में जिस तरह के अलायंसेस होते थे, उस तरह का अलायंस जब तक हम नहीं बनाते यूएस के साथ या जापान के साथ या ऑस्ट्रेलिया के साथ, तो ऑस्ट्रेलिया हमें हथियार तो सप्लाई करेगी, अभी भी कर रही है और जोर शोर से कर रही है, पहले से कहीं ज्यादा मात्रा में कर रही है, but will it come along to fight against China? Praful ji.
You want me to answer in English or Hindi? What is the...
Whatever you are comfortable with.
No, it's okay. English is okay, no problem. You see, basically, we have always faulted on our policy. Somehow or other, we were under the impression that if you are a democratic country, then you cannot have military alliance. This sort of a thought process, God knows how it entered their head. Democracy has nothing to do with protection of yourself militarily. Whether I align myself with God, whether I align myself with human beings or animals is my business, as far as I can maintain the democratic value. Question is this: we are faulted on our policy, so indigenization programs suffered so much so, let me tell you very frankly, we don't even make an honest rifle. Not a single gun, not a single aircraft. We just started making after 35 years NCA. We are way behind. Our fighter squadrons, supposed to be 50, have come down to 32, and next 2 years they'll be 28. Imagine, this is our condition because of lack of indigenization. And we had this feeling, no, we will not align ourselves. We are Gautam Buddha and Mahatma Gandhi, so we will not make armaments. We will not export armaments. Whoever made these policies had no clue. But it is our good luck. And let me tell you one thing, if you're allowing me to talk frankly, we must be very, very thankful to China. When China attacked us in 1962, they woke us up. And that is why we won the 65 war. Again, defeated Pakistan and and now that China has started on this, we have realized how backward we are. We are busy buying equipment with the enemy standing at a door. This is what is why I tell you we should have avoided. We should have been ready by 1975 because China is ready. China has all the logistics, 4,000 kilometers across our borders, railway lines, tracks, ordnance depots, missiles, air bases, everything.
We are
making it now.
There is an audio disturbance from your end. The sound is echoing.
Yeah, sound is. Why is it? There's
okay,
echo coming.
all right. I have fixed it. All right, please go ahead.
See, so this aspect was absolutely not acceptable, and that is why we are in this position. Now, this comes forward. If we align ourselves with Japan, with Australia, all the democratic countries holding the democratic values, and we have a common good, common aim of keeping our democracy atmosphere alive and our neighborhood safe, so that co-prosperity grows in this area, and the friendly atmosphere remains. One little impediment, like Germany in Second World War, we have China now coming up. If we try to be Chamberlain and try to, hide back, hold back, we will only suffer. So this earlier we move, the better it is. So that's why the Quad arrangement has been done between 4 countries, America, Australia, India, and Japan, and the 2+2 between the defense ministers and the foreign ministers are coming. And congratulations to India that for the first time they've realized that foreign policy of a country is directly related to the defense posture. If your defense posture is weak, your foreign policy is weak. And we always kept them separately. IPKF operations everywhere. I was in South Block. I was a spokesperson. And I used to ask this question: why is External Affairs arranging the IPKF meeting when it should be the Ministry of Defense? People never understood it. They thought I'm mad. And now they have started changing their thinking. And now this is now we will be doing and catching up with all our problems. And now what catching up is this? There are 3 main angles. There will be interoperability of the equipment, fighting people, and fighting, the sort of and auxiliary equipment which we require. The DECA, which is additional to that, is the number 3, will be giving us all the information for the geospatial information of operating the missiles, operating common missiles. This is what we are waiting for, the commonality of our operations. And you will be surprised with this agreement, if we agree of what America wants us to do. Now, America is not making a slave out of us. America has its own interest. We have our own interest. If our interests converge, we will be very happy. And that is what our interests are supposed to be, that America has realized India will stand against China. And America does not want China to gain hegemony in this area. All the 14 countries are suffering. They are already forming a coalition. They want a leadership. America is preparing us for a leadership. We actually will have a sort of Asian Union and Union of Asian and Pacific countries, where India may assume the leadership. Then only China will be kept at bay. Otherwise, I'm afraid Ladakh, they've already got 1,000 square kilometers inside. They've got in Galwan area, and they have already have 48,000 square kilometers under their belt because of, thanks to Prime Minister Nehru and his policies, and that's what we landed. This government, I thank the Almighty, has changed the whole thinking, and now they've taken a stand against China, and this stand against China has jolted China from their reverie, and they suddenly realized that this country is now posing a challenge, but it can do nothing about it because America is right in it, Japan, Australia, and us. And now with the policies on commercial angles, sanctions on China, from the diplomatic angle, we have not talked about it. What stops us from recognizing Taiwan? Why haven't we not opened the embassy till now? What about Tibet, their embassy? And let us say sorry to Dalai Lama. We did wish him on his birthday. Until we take these steps, let me tell you one thing, we will be repeating the history. So I'm happy that this step of Quad and 2+2 is now going to change a lot of things. There are a lot of other details I can discuss about the weapon systems and interoperability, but that's okay.
Yeah. Let me take that to Mantosh Sharma from the US. Mantosh, how have you viewed India's history militarily? As far as India's military approach to its neighbors are concerned, we not only not raise the Tibet issue constantly, but as and when there is a Chinese delegation in India, we organize a clampdown, a police clampdown on the Tibetan activists in Delhi. We do not let them come anywhere near the Chinese delegates because we want to have good relations with China. At the same time, you may recall when Barack Obama was here in India and it was Manmohan Singh government, he said that India just looks on so helplessly. He talked about Myanmar. There was the junta ruling there. There was a military rule there. Aung San Suu Kyi hadn't come yet. And he was despairing. Barack Obama was despairing. He said, you guys do nothing. You just look on. So, do you think it is high time that we changed the military policy of India as it should be internationally?
So, can you hear me, Sujit?
Yes.
My position is a little different. What Mr. Praful Bakshi was saying differently. Was saying all along. The solution doesn't lie in the military operation, and I think many strategists, even in the past and even in the current administration, one section highly believe this, and they talk differently than the military solution. And reason wise is that militarily we were in the first line of the defense right there, sharing 3,000 lines of the borders. Neither we have resource and capacity to engage China in their turn. Think about their military arsenal. Think about their per capita income. They can easily purchase any level of equipment from anywhere in the market, particularly Russia. Think about geopolitical situation changing. Earlier, Russia-China was not in good term. Now that line has opened up. Russia has agreed to give them all those natural resources, so they don't dependent on Saudi Arabs, and they have had a good connection with Iran. So geopolitical situation is
we should be scared.
Not be scared, but alarmed. But the point I'm reaching, the thing which we are trying to engage to come in terms on the defense side, let's say S-400. The earliest we can deploy S-400 in India in 2022. They already have S-300 and S-400 deployed in China. Their J-20 airplane is in match with F-32, which US is happening. So military-related solution, I don't see it. I see opportunity differently here. That's how even the many people like-minded here also think of it. And I will go back to the way the Gautam said non-aligned movement. Even though non-aligned movement India was on the face, US never believed it, and that was actually so too. Even in Henry Kissinger time era or earlier generation, they always thought India is a stooge of Russia. They never, US strategists never believed that it is a non-aligned movement India, and that's why they were always very suspicious of Indian activities all along.
But I don't think what you're saying right now is in sync, particularly with Mike Pompeo. Let me bring in Colonel Abhay Mishra. Colonel Abhay Mishra, can you hear me? Colonel, can you hear me?
He's muted. His mic is muted.
Colonel Saab, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please. Yeah. Colonel Abhay Mishra, should we cower down in the fear of China? Colonel Mishra.
No, not at all, not at all.
मंतोष शर्मा जी का जो आकलन है आप स्वीकार करते हैं?
But I haven't finished, Sujit. What I was saying, that opportunity is not in the military. Opportunity is in the business transaction. China was running $350 billion surplus.
Let me just make sure Colonel Mishra is getting us. Colonel Mishra, can you hear us?
He's muted again.
Please unmute yourself. Okay. Mr. Praful Bakshi wants to intervene. Yes, sir, go ahead.
What I was trying to tell, Satyajit, was I'm not saying that we should break away from Russia. I'm not saying we should do anything. I am only saying a military alignment with America does not stop us from doing business with others. When we were buying equipment from Russia, we were buying more equipment from France. There was nothing wrong with it. The question is only aligning a policy of defense. That's all. And China is a common enemy. Even Russia is not happy with China. You mean Russia will stop supplying us arms? We are already buying so many Hercules, the Globe Masters. We are getting more equipment from America. We'll continue from Russia also. We are not going to break away from all countries, but we are going to change our stand. That's what we say. Now we will not hide behind. No, we will not hide the Tibetans because Chinese are coming and do all those things. We are not going to be cowardly. That's what I'm
Not
trying to
only
tell you.
that, not only that, in the recent assessments by different international agencies, they say that in the event of a war with China, India has got a short-term advantage, if not a long-term one.
Yes.
So while they have all the military equipment that we have, ours is superior, and we have tactical advantage of height as well, as far as the Himalayan range is concerned.
I fully agree. I fully agree. We have got our tactical advantage of height, and not only this, our airfield are at low heights. That is another advantage for a fighter aircraft, for helicopters carrying full load. You know, the Chinese cannot carry taking off from 16,000 feet. They carry 1/3 of the load. That's besides. Our in this sector fight we can handle. If we align ourselves, we start getting equipment faster at a faster rate, because we will be requiring a lot of equipment, and the transfer of technology will be at faster rate. By next 5 to 6 years, we will be heading towards indigenization in a proper sense. That is why we should go for the Quad, and we should go for the 2+2. At no point of time I said that we should break away from Russia or we ignore them. No, nothing of the sort. And by the way, we will not stop diplomatic angle. We will not stop the commercial angle. Yes, I agree with them, my friend, that we must not ignore that. We will not ignore. But we have ignored our defense for so long. Why? That is the question. That should be overcome. I'm harping on that again and again. We will continue our agriculture exchange program, even for medicinal, pharmaceutical, everything. We will do it. But defense will take priority, because if you're not secure, there's nothing for you. I'm afraid our leadership from 47 was what it was. Had Subhash Chandra Bose been alive, things would have been different. Had Patel been alive, your policy would have been different. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That having those policies does not mean you're not democratic. The question is, we have ingrained ourselves in so much in these false notions that now we can't think of anything else, like a horse with a blinker.
Mantoshji, I'll come back to you. Let me try once again to get Colonel Abhay Mishra. Colonel, can you hear us? Please unmute. Hello. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. There is a mic icon you will see that you have to click on.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
या आपने मंतोष जी को सुना?
शुभ विजय। शुभ विजया दासगुप्ता।
शुभ विजय।
शुभ विजय।
Yes, I heard. सुना है हमने।
Do you share his assessment? आप उनकी बात मानते हैं कि हम लड़ाई की स्थिति में नहीं है चीन के साथ? चीन के खिलाफ लड़ने के लिए हम काबिल नहीं है, मंतोष जी का आकलन है।
काबिल है, नहीं काबिल तो है। लड़ाई हम लोग कर नहीं जाएंगे उनसे जी। हमारी प्रायोरिटी अभी लड़ाई की नहीं है। प्रायोरिटी है यूनियन टेरिटरी का डेवलपमेंट करना, और हम लोग हमारा टाइम इज रनिंग आउट। Central government should immediately develop Ladakh so that everyone Ladakh development is well done. We are not keen to fight at the moment, but we can fight. No,
आज का जो संदर्भ है, Colonel Mishra, the context today is the arrival of Mike Pompeo and Esper, their Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense, have arrived in India for the 2+2 dialogue, and the focus is aggression of China. So we are holding this discussion in that light. So therefore, Mantosh, if I can bring you back on this thing, Mantosh, if you look at the language that Pompeo has been using for the past 3 years, not just when the standoff began, or not even when the coronavirus began early this year or sometime last year, Pompeo, as well as President Donald Trump, have been attacking China constantly on the issue of trade, on the issue of imbalance in the trade relations, and then this dispensation that you have in America now has been on record calling coronavirus China virus or Chinese virus. So the aggression is very clear, and it is very clear they are not going to talk to Prime Minister Narendra Modi or S. Jaishankar about miscellaneous things. They are very clear they have come to discuss military affairs with a focus on China. Yes, Mantosh.
So that was the point. I didn't finish my point why I was saying that military is not a solution, particularly when the US team is coming there and the engagement is going in different way. My point is take the advantage of this big trade balance which US had with China, and with this relation going sour in both the countries. China used to have $350 billion surplus trade with US. Whole manufacturing and supply chain center became the Chinese hub, and that helped them to create their per capita 5 times what India has it. To take this opportunity to discuss with US continuously how they move their supply chain hub from China to India, right away we will have a 500 billion trade with India right away.
That's a long-term solution. Niharika wants to come in on that. Yes, Niharika.
Yes, second point was that with this defense side, with the Pompeo, US relation is always very transactional. So if we are willing to go in the Quad, what US is going to offer to India? Are they going to have the defense manufacturing facility done in India? Those are the transactional questions.
With due respect to Mr. Mantosh, Sharma, I was just talking to my boss on a status call from US, Pennsylvania. And he pointed me out a very interesting fact that here we are having a 2+2 meeting, but in US the elections are not very sure. Imagine that there is a situation where the postmaster is throwing out the ballot papers of the ballots being posted. And if it is in Biden's favor, then Republicans are throwing it out and vice versa, right? So the situation is that your Tuesday election might not be fair. And this election will go to courts. That is the reality, ground reality as depicted.
We are straying from the subject.
In this scenario, the 2+2 meeting, secretarial meeting, which is going on, do you think it would be fruitful?
Rachit, come in on that. Rachit, आप मानते हैं मंतोष जी के आकलन को मानते हैं?
मैं एक डिफरेंट टेंजेंट से शुरू करना चाहूंगा और एक एनालॉजी लूंगा जिसमें भारतीय क्रिकेट टीम की बात करूंगा। और जब हमें याद है कि 2000 के आसपास साउथ अफ्रीका की टीम भारत खेलने के लिए आई थी और गैरी कर्स्टन ने वहां पर एक कमेंट किया था कि भारत में जो होटल और जो सुविधाएं हैं वो अच्छी नहीं है, गंदगी है, तो वो उस टूर से वापस जाना चाहते हैं। वो समय था। और उस समय से आज का समय अगर हम देखते हैं तो पूरे दुनिया के क्रिकेटर्स लाइन लगाकर खड़े रहते हैं कि उनको आईपीएल में खेलने का मौका मिले, न केवल मौका मिले बट जिस टीम से वो खेलते हैं उसकी भाषा में कुछ ना कुछ स्लैंग्स, कुछ मुहावरे सीखते हैं और उसको टीवी पर बोलते हैं। तो दोनों समय के बीच क्या बदल गया? हमारी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में बहुत बड़ा बदलाव आया हो ऐसा भी नहीं है, हमारे देश की आर्थिक स्थिति कोई बहुत ज्यादा बदली हो ऐसा भी नहीं है, हमारा जो स्वच्छता का इंडेक्स है वो उसमें कुछ बहुत परिवर्तन आया हो ऐसा भी नहीं है, लेकिन हमारे सोचने का तरीका बदल गया। हम समझ गए कि क्रिकेट के क्षेत्र में हम दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा मार्केट है और सबसे बड़ी शक्ति हम बन सकते हैं, उसको कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं। अभी तक जैसा बात की गई मैं उसको दोहराना नहीं चाहूंगा, लेकिन पिछले 70 सालों में जिस प्रकार से हमारा दृष्टिकोण रहा है भारत को एक मिलिट्री पावर की तरह देखने का इंटरनेशनली, वो एक बहुत ही डिफेंसिव अप्रोच रही है। अब हमें ये चीज समझनी होगी कि हम खाली दूसरे देशों की दया के आधार पर अपनी सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित नहीं कर सकते हैं। अभी मंतोष जी जब बात कह रहे थे कि हम अभी उतने समर्थ नहीं हैं, जब वो S-300 S-30-40 की बात कर रहे थे, तो उस समय पर हमें ये ध्यान रखना होगा कि यदि हम अपना हॉस्टाइल फोर्सेस के प्रति हम अच्छा भाव रखते हैं तो दया करके हमें माफ करने वाले नहीं हैं। यहाँ पर दया का कोई स्कोप नहीं है, तो हमें पूरी तरह से तैयार रहना होगा। जहां तक तैयारी की बात है और जहां तक अपने आप को इक्विप करने की बात है, वहां पर हमें जो कदम उठाने चाहिए और जो कदम यहाँ डिस्कस भी हुए हैं वो हमें करना होगा, लेकिन सबसे पहले अपना एटीट्यूड बदलना होगा और ये नॉन अलाइनमेंट की बेवकूफी से हमें बाहर निकलना होगा।
जी कर्नल मिश्रा, आपके डिवाइस से जरा नजदीक आ जाइए। आप अपने डिवाइस से काफी दूर बैठे हैं, इसलिए आपकी आवाज क्लियर नहीं आ रही है।
अच्छा,
हाँ, तो कर्नल मिश्रा, मेरा प्रश्न आपसे ये है कि 2017 की बात अगर हम याद करें, डोकलाम में जो स्टैंड ऑफ हुआ था, तो जिस तरह से मंतोष जी कह रहे हैं कि हमारी आर्थिक स्थिति भी ऐसी नहीं है कि हम युद्ध लड़ सके, तो हमारा ये कहना है कि चीन जब पीछे हटा था 2017 में, काफी 70 दिन के बाद जब चीन पीछे हटा, तो वो भी भारत को मार्केट की तरह देख रहा था कि भारत के साथ लड़ना उसके हित में नहीं है, क्योंकि भारत चीन का भी एक बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है। तो क्या हम केवल ये मार्केट खेलते रहे? कर्नल मिश्रा।
नहीं, मार्केट नहीं, चीन ने जो प्लेयर लिया है वो उसका सक्सेस जाता है। वो क्या बोलते हैं उसको, रोड प्लेयर पर उसने इतना है।
यस, प्लीज गो अहेड।
वो जैसे वो ग्वार पहुंच जाता है, उसका इम्पोर्टेंट उसका प्रायोरिटी है ग्वार में पहुंचना, क्योंकि उसको वो जो इंडियन ओशन को कंट्रोल कैसे करेगा, यहाँ पर हमारे साथ उसकी लड़ाई करके तो वो एम्बेरस्ड है, पाकिस्तान को कुछ हेल्प नहीं कर पा रहा है। सबसे बड़ी उसकी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि वो पाकिस्तान को किसी भी तरह से हेल्प नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो वो एम्बेरस्ड है कि अपने इतने फ्रेंड को नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो उसको लड़ाई नहीं करेगा हमारे साथ।
आपके अनुसार ये जो 2+2 डायलॉग, कर्नल मिश्रा, ये जो 2+2 डायलॉग आज हो रहा है और कल भी होगा, ये 2 दिन की विजिट है उनकी और इसमें फोकस चाइना है, तो हमें इस पर किन किन निर्णयों पे, किन किन समझौतों पे पहुंचना चाहिए अमेरिका के साथ, चीन को ध्यान में रखते हुए?
जी देखिए, ये जो मिलिट्री अलायंस है इसका कोई खास मतलब नहीं रह जाता है। आपने देखा होगा इवन नेटो में भी जो देश हैं सब अपना अपना सोचते हैं। वो जब जरूरत पड़ती है, देखिए हुआ था तो उसमें खाली ऑस्ट्रेलिया या मैकार्थर खाली था, ठीक है, उसमें।
लेकिन कर्नल मिश्रा, अगर हम नेटो की बात करते हैं,
इसी तरह
अगर हम नेटो या सेंटो की बात करते हैं या वॉर्सो पैक्ट की बात करते हैं, तो उनसे भारत का एक बहुत बड़ा फर्क है कि हम इस तरह के किसी अलायंस में घुसना ही नहीं चाहते थे आज तक, तो इसलिए ऐसा अलायंस हो ही नहीं सकता था। लेकिन सवाल ये है कि अगर हम अपनी वो नीति बदल दें तो क्या होगा, जैसे कि विंग कमांडर बख्शी भी कह रहे हैं कि हमें ये नीति बदलनी चाहिए। विंग कमांडर,
देखिए, मैं एग्जैक्टली कह रहा हूं, मैं कह रहा हूं कि हमें नीति बदलनी चाहिए। नेटो में जाने का, हम नेटो की बात नहीं होती। नेटो जो थी वो बेसिकली, अगर आप सोचें नेटो किस लिए बनी थी, नेटो ऑफ कोर्स वॉर्सा रशियन सोवियत यूनियन के पैक्ट को खत्म करने के लिए बनी थी, मैं पूरी तरह सहमत हूं। बट बेसिकली नेटो क्या कर रही थी, आर्मामेंट इंडस्ट्री को कैप्चर करने की कोशिश कर रही थी। सी रीड बिटवीन द लाइंस। हमारा एम वो नहीं है, हमारा एम है टू गेट अ मिलिट्री अलायंस, टू गेट मिलिट्री टेक्नोलॉजी एंड बिकम सेल्फ सफिशिएंट and keep security of the area around us. We have to keep the area secured all around us, and 14 countries which are suffering all must look up to us as a joint union. This is the basic reason we must have this. And if we are having a constant supply of equipment with the technology, what is the harm? Because when we are going to fight China now, if we fight, yes, China is avoiding the fight, I fully know, because Sun Tzu has said the best victory is which is achieved without fighting. So they don't want to fight and win. That is what they are used to. But unfortunately, they have realized India is not backing out. So if there is a confrontation, we must not be left wanting. And that is why it is very essential. Let me tell you one thing, we are down to 28 squadrons in fighters. Our condition is so bad. We don't speak the truth. Because
we need at least 44, right? We need 44 to face a two-front war.
45, we are coming to 28. And this is we hide the figure. We say 32. Very sorry. Next 2 years we will below 28. This is our condition. So we have to wake up very early in a lightning speed, and there is no other method but to get technology full force in our country with foreign direct investment, with offset arrangement at breakneck speed, and we must.
Yes, I think we have lost your audio. Colonel Abhay Mishra, you wanted to make a point? Colonel Mishra and then Gautam.
Yeah. ऐसा है कि अभी इन लोग इतना अभी तो पोम्पियो को कैसे विश्वास करें, क्योंकि वहां ट्रंप तो हारने के चांसेस ज्यादा लग रहे हैं। तो गवर्नमेंट यदि बदल जाएगी तो वहां का पेंटागन क्या करेगा ये सोचना है। पोम्पियो इज नॉट दैट इम्पोर्टेंट. Important is what Pentagon does. So,
well, that is true. While that is true, Colonel Mishra, we also see that there is a kind of consistency in the US foreign policy. On that, I'll bring in both Gautam and Mantosh. You know, we have seen through the ages, since the era of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, we have had Republican governments and Democrat governments in the US, but the ties with India went uphill. Yeah. They constantly went uphill through the years of Bill Clinton, George Bush Jr., Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. So should we worry, Gautam, that maybe Trump is on his way out?
I don't think he's on his way out. I think the swing states, 8 of them, are going to save his hide, and we will have him for another 4 years, which from Indian point of view is a very good thing for the continuity and for the bridges that have already been built with him. But going back to your earlier comment about a gradual ramping up of military ties with America, this is in fact one of those geostrategic realities that will go on irrespective of who wins, and has gone on through Republican as well as Democratic governments. The only trouble is that when it is a Republican government, we seem to get a a certain amount of speed into it, a certain amount of clarity into it, particularly when the BJP is in power, which has been the case in the last 6 years. When the Democrats are facing the BJP, they tend to teach us all kinds of moral lessons which are spurious in nature, but that is typical of the liberal left kind of thinking, which is selective and moralizing in a manner where they get to lecture you and they don't look at the mote in their own eye. But one thing earlier on, Wing Commander Bakshi also said, the business of Sun Tzu and the art of war and bluff as a methodology has been challenged, not just now, but in Doklam, and now in no uncertain terms, it's in Sikkim as well. So what is happening is China is not going to get away with anything more without an actual fight. This is the Indian position. And I do not buy the whole business of being under-equipped and so on and so forth, because we have made our bed now and said, whatever it is, you're not going to get away with it. And we had held the cat on behalf of the entire world, and especially the Western world, and I dare say even Russia. And we are going to get a lot of credit for the things we buy. We cannot possibly buy things on the usual, because it will take 4 years, 5 years, etc. for them to arrive. What is going to happen, as happened long ago in the 1967 Arab-Israeli war? I happened to be in Libya at the time, in Tripoli, and there was a huge American air base, the biggest outside of Germany, called Wheelers Air Base. And I personally saw American F-16s taking off about 2 a minute. So the myth is the Israelis won that war. But the fact is, the Americans fought it for them. Not only that, the kind of information sharing that went on had the Arab air forces nullified on the ground, the tanks are on the heights.
Do you think, do you think that in the face of Indian reluctance to get into a military alliance, unlike Israel, US is going to go to that extent in defending us against China?
We are not as small, and this isn't 1967. China can build all its infrastructure, but we're very powerful in missiles. And you can create havoc to infrastructure deep inside China with just a bunch of missiles. So we can do a lot of damage. And our army is up to the mark, our air force is up to the mark, and so is our navy. Strategically, we're right opposite the Malacca Straits. We have the support of the US, France, etc. And I am sick and tired of listening to Indian voices that say, you see, we can't do it. Because this is the kind of thing that has been taken advantage of. This is the kind of thing, the Nehruvian thinking, which we have dispensed with. I wish all commentators would catch up.
Yes, Niharika, what's your point?
I partially agree with Wing Commander Bakshi and with Gautam Mukherjee. But being a defense person's daughter, on the ground reality, specifically in the mountain ranges of Nathula or Sikkim, is very different. Even though we have an advantage of height, the advantage is not very strong, because fighting on the mountains is very much different. The loss of life is on very high rate. Colonel Abhay Kumar Mishra has lost 12 soldiers in Nathula border.
Niharika,
Understand that.
Niharika,
So what India is doing right now,
on that front,
let me just complete one point.
No,
what we are doing is what we are doing strategically.
Let me
if we
counter
are
that first.
working on our
Niharika, on the issue of mountain warfare, India is better equipped than China. China has got absolutely no exposure to mountain warfare at all. But anyway, hold your next point. I'll come back to you later. Rachit and Mantosh, you may come in on the question of things other than war, because it's just not the war with which US can help India. There
Exactly.
are other avenues. There are other avenues which are very close to war. They are strategic things. Take, for instance, of late, a spate of Chinese moles have got arrested in the US. You know, no less than Harvard University, a Chinese mole was masquerading as a professor there. These things will stop if Democrats come to power. We will also see a relinking or rehyphenation of India-Pakistan relations when Democrats come. जब वो यहाँ पर आते हैं, आपको याद होगा रजित, जब अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति यहाँ आते थे तो वापसी में पाकिस्तान होकर जाते थे या पाकिस्तान होकर भारत आते थे, जैसे कि बैलेंस कर रहे हो। ये अब खत्म हो गया है। अभी अमेरिका से कोई भी डेलीगेशन आता है तो पाकिस्तान में हाजिरी देकर नहीं जाता, वो सीधे कहीं और चला जाता है। माइक पॉम्पियो यहाँ से श्रीलंका जा रहे हैं, पाकिस्तान नहीं जा रहे हैं। हाँ रचित
जी, इसमें एक चीज हमें ध्यान देने वाली है, क्योंकि आज का सिनेरियो हम 1965 की तो बात कर ही नहीं रहे, लेकिन 10 और पिछले 5 साल के सिनेरियो से भी बहुत ज्यादा बदल चुका है। एक नई चीज उसमें आई है, वो है डिजिटल सिक्योरिटी, जिसके बारे में हमें बात करनी चाहिए, क्योंकि आज के समय का जो स्ट्रेटेजिक वॉरफेयर है उसमें डिजिटल सिक्योरिटी, हैकिंग, ये सारी चीजें बहुत ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण हो गई हैं। और अगर आपने देखा होगा जिस तरह से डिजिटल वॉरफेयर भारत ने शुरू किया है, चाहे वो चाइनीज वेबसाइट्स को बंद करने का हो, जिसमें टिकटॉक से लेकर तमाम वेबसाइट्स आई हैं, और उसमें ना केवल एक वो स्ट्रेटेजिक पॉइंट था बल्कि उसमें एक सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न भी था। और आप देख सकते हैं कि किस तरह यूएस से लेकर पाकिस्तान ने उस कंसर्न को एको किया है, और एक बहुत बड़ी स्ट्रेटेजिक विक्ट्री हमें अपने देश के लिए उसमें देखनी चाहिए, क्योंकि हमने जो स्टेप्स लिए वो चाइना की जो मार्केट रेपुटेशन है डिजिटल मार्केट में, उसको बहुत बड़ा डेंट उसने पहुंचाया है। तो एक ये फ्रंट है जिस पर हमें यूएस के साथ बहुत अच्छा कोऑर्डिनेशन करने को मिल सकता है, क्योंकि हम सेम पेज पर हैं। यूएस भी वही सोचता है जो हम सोचते हैं। जहां तक ऑन ग्राउंड एक्टिविटीज की बात है और डिप्लोमेटिक टाइज की बात है, आपने डेमोक्रेट्स के बारे में बात बिल्कुल सही कही है। वो तो भगवान न करे अगर ऐसा होता है तो हमें बहुत कुछ अपनी स्ट्रेटेजीज रीथिंक करनी पड़ेंगी और बहुत सारी चीजें करनी पड़ेंगी, लेकिन इररेस्पेक्टिव ऑफ दैट हमें ये भी ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि मोर और लेस इंटरनेशनल फ्रंट पर चीजें नहीं बदलने वाली हैं, चाहे वो डेमोक्रेट्स आते हैं या रिपब्लिकन्स रहते हैं। हमें ये ध्यान रखना होगा कि यूएस के साथ जब हम बात कर रहे हैं तो एक स्टेक होल्डर की तरह करें, ना सिर्फ इस रीजनल पॉलिटिक्स में बल्कि जो इंटरनेशनल एक्सेस है अक्रॉस द कॉन्टिनेंट्स जो बन रहा है उसमें हमें एक स्टेक होल्डर की तरह बात करनी होगी, ना केवल एक मर्चेंट की तरह जो यूएस के पास एक सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न लेकर जाता है।
Right. We are almost towards the end of our program. I would like Mantosh to make his concluding remarks.
So a few things I will just want to clarify. First line from Niharika earlier, whoever she was talking to New Jersey. Let me conclude there, and this will be a matter of record. President Trump is getting decimated here right now. He may get decimated to the extent 1980 Ronald Reagan हराए थे Carter को, so वो basis पे. That was my first point. Second thing is that US work as a transactional opportunity, not like who is a person who is heading the government here. So transactional, what India is going to offer to US and then what US is going to offer to India. They always make their foreign policy and defense policy in this framework. And that framework has been already changed and defined since second terms of Clinton, and they are working on that part, irrespective chahe Democrats aaye ya Republican aaye next government mein. That policy is not changing, and in that framework, India has a very big role to play in US future in strategic terms, more in a defense strategic
Right.
as well as business purpose. So उस
Yes.
framework में दोनों country के prime minister निकल जाए. Yeah.
Colonel Mishra, concluding remarks, please.
Yeah. See, you must remember now, Mountain Core has reached Ladakh. That means we are nearer to our striking force is nearer to the border. Earlier,
Right.
our striking forces used to be much behind, and it was very difficult for reach borders. So, defense is all right. Defense cannot be used for the offensive forces. This core, mountain core has become very important for us now. And mountain, some divisions have already reached, I'm told, Ladakh. And other divisions may reach the eastern side also. So,
Right.
remember, we are no less. We are
Now, in the worst case scenario, what I want to know from a veteran like you is, in the worst case scenario, how closely do you think the US will support us?
That means we can also go deep into the Chinese territory with these offensive forces designed now.
Right,
Earlier it was on the plain. Now
right,
it is in mountain. Offensive forces
Exactly.
are in mountain. So remember, we can now go deep into the territory and create havoc to Chinese.
yes. I think China, the PLA is already realizing that in Pangong Tso, the Pangong Lake.
So we are getting.
They have lost. We have
confidence that
regained some of the points that we had lost earlier. Yeah, Niharika, make your second point and also the concluding remarks.
See, I would just like to add one thing, Surajit. The point made by Mantosh is right, that they are transactional. US is transactional. But at the same time, my perception is that the first world countries are giving us only the lip service. And
Right.
we are on our own. We have to develop our own strengths. And yes, we are capable. We will make through it. And yes, with our own capability, we will attract the first world countries to agree to our own terms. So
Right.
what we have to do is we have to build ourselves internally, and we can't just look at the US, okay, that US Navy will support us in China. No, they will not. They will only come to us when we give them something. But we
Right.
should not be dependent on waiting for them to give us something. Very simply put, যদি তোরে ডাক শোনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে.
Yes.
We have to move forward ourselves. Then only the
Right.
world will follow us.
Okay, so Gautam, what can we offer? What can we offer to the US? A military base? Is that our next step?
Surajit, the thing to remember in all of this is that they are not helping us for our sakes. They're helping us for their own sakes. They
Right.
are here. The Secretary of State and the Defense Secretary for 3 years running, particularly now in the middle of a pandemic, is here because they want to check China. And we
Exactly.
are on the forefront of being able to do that. And because of Galwan and because of outmaneuvering them at the heights all over eastern Ladakh, we have contained China. And what we need now is a backup support. We don't need anything else. We need things that we require to beat them should this prolong. If it is
Exactly.
a short war, I do believe it is inevitable, and it will happen on both fronts with Pakistan as well as China. And if it is a short war, we will win on both fronts. If it is a long war, and that is where these guys come in, we don't want anything for free. We don't want anything other than a long line of credit and supplies from existing stocks to be rushed to our rescue. We know how to operate those things. We just need them now.
Right. Rachit, final remarks. What should be India's line of thinking, line of argument, line of negotiations in these 2 days, today and tomorrow, in the course of the 2+2 dialogue?
Right. We need to be very clear of the fact that the scenario today is unprecedented in terms of US-India relationship. And the reason for that is the China-US relationship is in unprecedented form. And India's importance in US eyes is unprecedented because of this scenario. Earlier, it used to take Pakistan as an ally because the Russian access was there. Now it is a one-to-one between US and China, and there India plays a pivotal role in terms of military as well as strategic point of view. Second thing that our negotiators need to remember is that we are living in a global village today, and our position in terms of as a country, as a market, is again more powerful than it has ever been. So we need to be more assertive, more aggressive, and more clear in our approach while we talk to the US.
Absolutely. We have completely run out of time. So, of course, it is not just military equation that we are looking at. India is working on the economic front as well. We have dealt with the 59 Chinese apps which we have banned, which has dealt a heavy blow on the Chinese economy and its penetration, more importantly. At the same time, when we see the Japanese head of state, when we hear the Australian head of state speak their mind, somewhere Indian diplomacy is also at work. With that message, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this edition of Wait for 8 on Sirf News and Satyanveshi Bharat. Vande Mataram.